Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Tots here with everything that we know about PvP in Diablo 4. Now, I'm sure some of you know I am a huge PvP nut. Some of my best gaming memories have PvP involved with it. PvP usually keeps me in games longer. But I do know there's a lot of pushback by the Diablo fans that think that PvP should not even be in Diablo 4. So I'm going to get into it. Let me know what you think. Hit that subscribe button. Stick with me. Let's get it started. So I'm sure most of you guys know, PvP in Diablo 4 is restricted to zones on the map called the Fields of Hatred, and there's actually lore behind this. The Fields of Hatred are areas in Sanctuary that have been tainted by the hatred of Mephisto, which bubbled up from hell. Those who entered these fields were consumed, turning them against their fellow mortals. So it's cool to have a little tidbit of reason as to why we are PvPing in the open world. There will be several fields of hatred around the world, and anybody can enter them at any level. But keep in mind, higher level and higher geared players will be much stronger and will kill you much faster. If you're a lower level, obviously. The fields of hatred are PvEVP zones, similar to the Dark Zone in the Division, which means yes, there are monsters and bosses to fight. To add that, there is also an increased spawn rate and difficulty of these monsters and bosses to entice players to come into the fields of hatred. Doing this makes it much harder, not as easy to just walk into the fields of hatred and clear out monsters by yourself. It's kind of gives it another form of challenge other than the PvP element. The way PvP works is you have to flag yourself, which is called blood marking, to enable PvP. Once you are flagged or marked, you can now attack any other player inside the fields of hatred, including people that are not flagged. Now, if you are not flagged, you cannot attack other players that are also not flagged. However, keep in mind, if you come across a flagged player, they can attack you and you can attack them. This makes for unprecedented events. You never know, you could be with complete strangers that are unmarked, and then one of them could suddenly mark themselves and jump on you. You never know. You could get ganked. There's probably going to be a lot of ganking. So you might be thinking, what's the point of PvP? Well, personally, PvP in most games is some of the most memorable things I've experienced in my gaming career. To keep it related with the Division, I have very fond memories of extremely stressful fun and rewarding times being in the Dark Zone with my friends. Having a full bag of loot to extract in the Dark Zone was both thrilling and exciting. At any moment, you could exchange interactions with a new friend or somebody that you hunt for the rest of the time playing. I've had that happen where someone pretended to be my friend, ended up killing me, and I just dedicated the rest of that night to hunting him down and killing him as much as I could. In the closed beta, it has been said that entering the fields of hatred and working with other random players to fight the PvE activities was one of the fastest ways to gain loot, similar to endgame events such as Helltides. However, the main reason why this probably won't be the best way to gain loot when the game releases is because at any given moment, anybody can turn on you and kill you, destroying all your progress. Especially because anytime you kill an enemy player, as well as mobs and bosses or even opening chests, you get a currency called Seeds of Hatred that later get used to gamble for more gear. If you are flagged for PvP, you gain an increased amount of Seeds of Hatred. So this gives more of an incentive to be marked for PvP, which is good to have. That way you have more people wanting to PvP rather than just everybody working together for PvE elements. If you die while holding Seeds of Hatred, you drop them, allowing other players to pick them up. So in order to prevent players from stealing your Seeds of Hatred, you have to convert them into a different currency. To do this, you have to bring them to what's called the Altar of Extraction. However, once you begin converting your Seeds of Hatred at the Altar of Extraction, everybody in your area is alerted, showing them where you are, telling them that you have all these Seeds of Hatred on you. This will make for very dicey and fun interactions while trying to extract. Once successfully extracted, the Seeds of Hatred turn into a currency called Red Dust. This is the final currency of hatred. This is the final currency in the Fields of Hatred, and you cannot drop it once obtained. Red Dust is used at a PvP gambling vendor, just like the one where you gamble away your murmuring obols. This vendor will both offer loot to gamble for and exclusive PvP cosmetics. And I'm a big fan of that. I like looking like a badass saying that I've killed a bunch of people. But that's just me. Another PvP element that you will experience is that if you are on a killing streak, meaning you've killed a lot of players without dying, you will be deemed as the Vessel of Hatred. When this happens, you will become a marked target on the map to everybody in a large area around you. If you manage to survive for a certain amount of time as a Vessel of Hatred, you will earn a large amount of rewards. Yes, you must remain in the fields of hatred during this time. On the other hand, if a player kills you while you are marked as the Vessel of Hatred, they will receive extra rewards. So that pretty much sums up all the general facts that we know about Diablo 4's PvP. If I missed anything or you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, and I will gladly answer them for you. I'm sure I missed a few things that some people might not know, so definitely leave some comments, and I will be happily answering them. All right, so now we're going into things that are still being worked on, PvP that's still under speculation or leaks that we've heard from the closed beta or just rumors. So take this all with a grain of salt. Some of it's also going to be my opinion as well. So feel free to think of it as you please, but I've been doing a lot of research, reading a lot through the Blizzard forums, which is a shit show. You guys are crazy in there. But stick with me. Let's go with this. So we're starting with balance. So balancing is by far the biggest topic when it comes to PvP. Like, you know, you can't have a singular class that just dominates all the other classes in PvP. That would make it not fun. And right now, there's a lot of leaks from the closed beta. Basically, people saying that the Barbarian is an immortal death machine. Like, nobody can kill the Barbarian unless it's another Barbarian. So hopefully they work on that before release, because that would be a shame if PvP is just all barbarians and druids, because they can sustain through anything, I'm assuming. But the main argument with this that I was reading is that people are scared that they're gonna nerf PvP by also nerfing and regulating PvE. And I'm just gonna put this out there, guys, that's never gonna happen. Like, it's Diablo. Diablo 4, it's a PvE game. They've just added MMO and PvP elements to it. They're not going to take the 5% of the game and change it so that it changes the rest of the game. Now, the devs have even come out to say that the Diablo 4 is first and foremost a PvE game. So anything PvP will always be an afterthought and not a primary concern. And as a huge PvP nut, I am fine with this. I do love Diablo PvE. You know, I did not play any PvP in Diablo 2, and I wish it was in Diablo 3, but it wasn't. And I don't play Diablo Immortal. So I love Diablo for what it is, but it would be nice to have a massive, dedicated dev team completely dedicated to PvP content. There are so many different possibilities and fun activities that they can add to Diablo 4 for PvP. For example, they could do 3v3 arenas, 4v4. They could do large zone events like Capture the Flag or Conquering Strongholds like 20v20. They could do all these cool things as long as they were isolated, right? There's no PvE with them. If it's strictly PvP, they could push it to the side and then just balance it however they want to balance, completely leaving the entirety of the game alone. But other examples could be like invasions. Like, that could be fun, but that's also part of, like, you can't invade someone's worlds to attack them and not have it be a part of PvE as well. So that's kind of a blurry line. So I think if they do their own, like, arena or battleground events, like Diablo Immortal has PvP, and a lot of people really enjoy it, and it seems to be a success in Diablo Immortal. So it's definitely a possibility that they could put that in Diablo 4. Another cool arena that I would love to see that I haven't seen in years are clan battles. How cool would it be to charge in with your clan, with the camaraderie of the clan and friends that you've built over the past months or years to fight other clans in some sort of ranked or a leaderboard thing, or to have something so you can battle other clans. That would be a lot of fun. And on to top that, just having ranked in general, ranked 3v3, that would give people a entire purpose other than the rest of the game. Like, that would be a lot of fun. There's a lot of different ways to do those. I'm not gonna go into all the balancing and the potentials that they could do. Like, they could make it very similar to Lost Ark, where their arena modes, everyone is balanced, everyone is the same level with the same type of gear. It's just the skills that you decide to use and the builds that you want to go about it. So that, at the end of the day, that makes it so whoever is the better player will win. So they could definitely do that. Granted, only having 6 abilities does make it easier, but it's doable. It's definitely doable. So let's get into what's currently in the game right now. So we have the open world, Fields of Hatred PvP zones. Right now, any level of player can enter the Fields of Hatred, meaning that there will most likely be high-level players destroying low-level players. We aren't sure if there will be level squishing or balancing in the future to make it more fair for lower-level players to fight against higher levels. But what we do know is that there is a massive damage reduction system in play, which I've seen to be anywhere between 93% to 98% damage reduction. On top of this, there is also currently a cap on crit damage at 150% and vulnerable damage cap at 100%, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's 150, 100, while in the Fields of Hatred. So these damage suppressors make it so fighting other players hopefully will not be a 1-second battle, unless there's a wide gear difference, obviously. However, on the contrary, capping crit damage can completely cripple players like rogues, or technically any other class, because every class, uses crit damage. Because if they're completely built around crit and then they get capped by 200%, like, especially for the PvE aspects in the Fields of Hatred. For example, if there's a build that pushes 350% crit damage, they will be incredibly weaker compared to any other build that doesn't focus crit damage. And with how difficult it is to change builds on a whim, which you really can't do, yeah, you can respec skills, but what about all your legendaries? You got to have a whole separate set of gear for legendaries if you want to switch to a PvP build. But yeah, you'll most likely need a strict PvP character in order to outperform good players in the Fields of Hatred, which, to be honest, I don't hate that fully. Yes, it's annoying if people don't have a lot of hours to put into the game to be able to make 2 different characters, one strictly for PvP, but I do enjoy that idea of building a badass PvP character and being able to show him off and destroy people in the open world PvP. Whereas if anybody could be any build at any time or any moment, that would just completely reduce any significance of any gear or build. But the one issue I do see with this is you can't really have a PvP build in the outside world, in the open PvE areas of the game. It may work for certain niche 1v1 PvE scenarios, but it definitely won't be an optimized build for endgame things like Helltides or doing Nightmare Dungeons, because there's so many mobs you have to clear, and you need to have the proper build for it, like having Shadow Spec on rogues. It's almost mandatory for clearing. There's been comments from people who played in the closed beta that mentioned the PvP is very bursty when it comes to fighting players with lesser gear, as expected. However, fighting players at similar level and gear can be a lengthy 10 to 20 second fight. I think that's a great number, 10 seconds being the shortest. I think that's great. 10 seconds is a long time when you're really thinking about it, or if people try to run away or anything, it's not too long. 20 seconds can definitely flirt with being too long, because, yeah, if you have full sustained characters like barbarians and druids, they can probably just run away, or they could sustain during the entire extraction event, I'm assuming. So hopefully it's not quite like that, but no, nobody really knows. We'll see. But in the grand scheme of things, being able to fight that long does sound like a good amount of time, especially if there are other players around and if you're fighting a whole team with your own team. Like, just having like a nice sought out fight would feel good, I would think. And as for the whole level squishing possibility, I do think it would be better for the game's longevity, to have a more even playing field with all players. Not only does it make it so whoever has a better build and the better skills, like whoever is the better player will win the fight, but this will also increase the amount of players that will feel comfortable entering the fields of hatred. Like, if the gear levels are not regulated, then that will result in Big Dick Larry absolutely decimating everybody in PvP, which, keep in mind, is also a cool and very rewarding feeling. But I do think that that would lower the amount of players that PvP in general. Because, in that sense, who would even bother PvPing if you're not at max level? If you're going in at level 50 and everybody's level 100, what's the point? You're just going to get destroyed. But this also brings light or darkness to the pay-to-win aspect of having the deluxe version of the game. Granted, this will only affect the first week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks realistically. But if you could get in 4 days before everybody else, you're going to be much stronger. Like, think about it. If doing the PvE activities in the fields of hatred is one of the fastest ways to level up, or even gear up, then people that are playing the game on June 6th for the first time will be at a complete disadvantage if they want to do the same strategy. There's going to be all of us people that have been playing since June 2nd. They're going to be almost max level. Like, people will be dominating the fields of hatred when all of these new low B characters come in. Like, they're gonna come in to check it out, and they're gonna get decimated because people have already been playing for 4 days. This is something that I really don't think should be in the game, and I'm sure 95% of you think the same thing. It's crazy that they're allowing this to happen, but it's happening, and people are paying for it happily. But yeah, it's something we're gonna have to deal with. So we'll see. One of the biggest balancing concerns I have that needs to be addressed is diminishing returns on crowd control abilities. For example, the Rogue has a tremendous amount of CC potential. Their core ability, Twisting Blades, can be upgraded to have a daze effect into it. If you're not familiar with what daze is in Diablo 4, when you are dazed, you cannot attack or use skills, but are still able to move. And the way Twisting Blades works is when the swords are stabbed into the target is dazed for 1.5 seconds, until the swords release themselves after the 1.5 seconds. The target can run away, but they cannot run from the daze. They will still be dazed for the full duration, because the swords are still inside of them. While they are dazed, the rogue can then cast multiple auto attacks or even other skills or abilities before the daze runs out. When the daze runs out, the rogue can cast Twisting Blades again, repeating the same rotation and doing this up to 3 to 4 times before he runs out of mana. So one rogue with one ability can render a target useless for at least 6 seconds with one ability, all while doing damage to it. And then wait, if the rogue has Shadow Step, then they can upgrade that to stun the target for 2 whole seconds. That's weird. So you can daze the target for 6 seconds and then stun the target for 2 seconds. But wait, there's more. If you also have caltrops with added cold and chill damage, you are slowing them by 50%. And with enough ticks of the chill effect, the way chill works in Diablo 4, it will freeze them, which will also completely stun them for another 2 seconds.
But wait, there's more.
If you also have dash equipped, you can upgrade the dash that whenever you dash through a slowed enemy, your dash will now daze them with the dash for 2 whole seconds. And guess what? On top of having 2 charges of the caltrops, you also have 2 charges of dash. So more caltrops means more chills, means more slows, means more dazes and more freezes. Oh yeah, and don't forget the actual smoke grenade that you can upgrade to be a flat daze of 5 seconds. So yeah, there's 5 abilities, all that have CC that completely renders the enemy useless. That is a total of 15 seconds of daze, 4 seconds of stun, 12 seconds of 50% slow, and a core ability that hits like a truck. If anybody used Twisting Blades, it just destroys things. And this is just a small and probably not even close to a best-in-slot build for a PvP rogue. You have Concealment that renders you invisible and guarantees a crit on the first shot. You have Cold Imbue, which can stack with caltrops, causing a quicker freeze and more slow. There's Shadow Clone that will essentially increase the rogue's entire damage by 80% as long as the clone attacks the same target, or even Rain of Arrows that can knock down all targets for 3 seconds. That's just more CC. So there's a huge amount of CC and build potential just for the rogue. So basically what I'm saying is that there needs to be some sort of way to prevent crowd control chaining into oblivion. Because if targets aren't dying on average 5 to 10 seconds, that can easily be 5 to 10 seconds of chained CC. And it's not like we have healers like in games like WoW where you can just get healed through any and everything. But who knows? Maybe this is intended for the rogue to counteract their complete lack for any defensive abilities. They can flash around in CC, whereas the barbarian, who is rumored to be the king of closed beta PvP, can easily tank, can sustain through almost everything. They can stick to targets very easily and provide CC on top of a lot of damage. So, I mean, that does make sense in my head that he is the king of PvP right now, but I don't know. The one thing that does help with this, and will definitely need to be mandatory in PvP builds, are unstoppable and immune abilities. While unstoppable, control impairing effects are removed and prevented. For example, the Necromancer Blood Mist allows them to escape any CC and go completely immune to damage for 3 seconds. The Rogue Concealment ability also makes them unstoppable for 2 seconds, allowing them to escape a CC, but they will be able to take damage. Immune and unstoppable are different things. The Barbarian's Rallying Cry and Charge ability makes the Barbarian unstoppable, and so on. There's a lot of different unstoppable abilities, so they're definitely going to be mandatory in terms of PvP builds. But perhaps at the end of the day, with all the changes they're making to the game since the beta versions, this all comes together to actually be a semi-balanced game. Who knows? It could be. Maybe the CC won't actually be an issue due to the unstoppable attribute and tankiness of some characters, but it's hard for me to believe that 16 seconds of daze isn't just a little overpowered. Especially because after that 16 seconds, you'll then be able to reset your whole rotation. So it's basically an infinite amount of days. But who knows? Who knows? There's a lot of stuff in the game that none of us have seen. There's a lot of stuff that people are testing in the closed beta. So it will be looked at by Blizzard. It will be worked on. So we will see. We all know PvP is going to be an afterthought, which in a sense is a good thing. But as a PvP nut, I wish it wasn't. I wish PvP was a main core part of the game because I love PvP. But yeah, you guys get what I'm saying. Let's just hope come June 2nd, it's all perfectly balanced. You know, that'll happen. And the servers will be fine. That'll happen. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. If you made it through this video, I appreciate it. Hit that sub button, comment any questions. Let me know what you think about PvP. There's a lot of you that just don't even want it in the game, which I can understand. But at the same time, PvP can be a lot of fun. And there's right now, PvP is not mandatory. It's not necessary. So you PvEers don't ever have to even see PvP. You can just do the whole game without it. But there's a lot of you out there complaining that it's in the game, complaining that it's going to change and it's going to affect builds because they're gonna nerf everything and regulate everything. No, they're going to work on PvE. They're going to work on Diablo 4 first. So with that being said, thank you guys. See you on the next one. And as always, stay crispy. in Diablo 4 and everything you need to know. Nope, 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 nope. Yo, what's going on, guys? We are here with... fuck. Let's get it started with... No. Tots here, and I'm here with fucking everything you need to know about PvP fucking shiz in games, you know, having PvP aspects. Guys, Crispy Tots here with some